What's up, Caesar? It was weird last night. I had I think like seven people in here, but no one said anything the entire time. And I know sometimes people are quiet, but there was even at least one person in there that is normally talkative and it just silence the whole time. I was even like, "Hey, just let me know that you're here. Say hi, something." And not a word. It was weird. So I don't know if there was like a bug or if people were just really quiet. Yeah, I haven't been on at all, making anything for a couple months now. And, in part out, I want to apologize for not being on and not creating anything. I'm not trying to keep you guys hanging. It's just, I talked about it a little bit last night, but I'm happy to go into it a little more tonight. Just, yeah, I'm really disappointed in general in the culture and the internet. I don't think there's a free place on the internet anymore. I think everything is stifled by vested interest, by fear, fear of the government, fear of uh, woke social movements, you name it. Yeah, I would say in general, I'm doing good. I would say I'm faring well in the in the current political, cultural, social, economic environment. But in general, I mean, just I think like most people, I'm not really doing too hot, but a lot of that's out of my control. Um, had to get rid of TikTok because it was these apps. You have to understand that these apps are being used to mess with your head. So last time I used TikTok before I uninstalled it literally immediately, all of a sudden the feed was every other video was like just weird stuff, people with boils on their skin and disease. And it was very obvious that they changed the algorithm to just put the idea of disease and sickness in my mind. And I was like, all right, that's the last straw. I mean, TikTok's just demonic, but that was the last straw. So I even uninstalled it. So I'm not communicating on there anymore. And, Substack is just a intelligence operation, unfortunately. I think that's become pretty obvious at this point. The owners have, sold out to um, the wrong priorities for sure. Just trying to get big names, push people who are clearly propagandists. And it's so all of that combined, it's just been really hard to be on here because I know it's almost pointless for genuine voices to get on here to talk about things that actually matter. So, taking quite a break. Life is also a bit hectic, tumultuous, trying to figure out other things in my own life as they've, you know, fallen into disarray just because of so many variables, so many vectors of pressure and stress that it's been hard to juggle it all, to be honest with you. And I've lost all taste for participation in the culture. I think like I'm very turned off by the whole thing, like by everything, the entire internet, um, the culture as it stands. I'm just the only thing I really want to do is isolate away from it. It just seems so shallow and toxic that I mean essentially frustrated after like 5 minutes of being on the internet, and there's like there's it's inescapable. So yeah, I mean that's kind of where I've been. Don't really know where to go from here. It's a waste of time to do any of this for economic reasons, like to make a living doing this. That's become a complete waste of time. Unless you're towing a political line or a tyrannical social line, you're not really going to be doing too hot on any of these platforms. If your voice isn't supported by a corporation, by a government, by a manufactured disingenuous cultural or social movement, you're not going to be doing well on any of this. And it's kind of this metaphoric mark of the beast in a sense. Not to say that that is real in a literal sense, but there's definitely this sort of figurative metaphoric mark of the beast where if you don't bow to the masters in mind and action, this is you're going to be edged out. You're going to be edged out if you talk about essentially anything that matters. So, you know, yeah, that's that's my rant. But I'm here to sit and chat with you guys for a little bit and answer questions if you got any. I'm willing to comment on the current events if you like, or just talk about more evergreen things. If anyone needs any advice or a new perspective. Also, if anyone just wants to know what's going on with their lives, with the world, I'm curious. I've been very, like I said, very isolated, not just by choice, because I'm just like not into it anymore. Like I'm just not into it's all phony. Like I'm so not into the phoniness. A few voices on the internet that people tend to still gravitate towards, like the real people tend to gravitate towards, are also just a subtler version of propaganda. You know, and you get these stupid messages like your internet is unstable. Hasn't been unstable all day. It doesn't ever become unstable, but I do a lot on Substack where all of a sudden my internet's unstable. Just these types of frustrating things that continually happen. Is another reason. It's just like, why? What's the point? What's the point if it's going to be completely frustrating? If I'm going to get um, constant pressure and harassment in my personal life for what I do, and then constant stress and roadblocks on the internet when I try to do what I like to do. So yeah. Yeah, so it just seems like it's just all reproductions and remixes by like a few people, like that people in the center still sort of gravitate towards. We're talking your Tucker Carlson, your Nick Fuenteses, your Candace Owens, these types of folks who, work the closest to the center, moderate, but who are just repurposing bullshit, who are just taking all of our old talking points from a year or 2 years ago and revisiting them because they're trying to collect our demographic. And you can tell it's disingenuous, it's inauthentic, it's money driven, it's phony, and I used to generally appreciate people like Carlson and Owens and Russell Brand. But now I see through them. It's like, oh, you guys are just as phony as all the other ones, which is really unfortunate. But I just don't think there's any standout voices anymore. So it's like just makes you feel a little more alone. Um, Ben Davidson is another one. Complete letdown. That guy is trash. He's like a trash human being. Like I jumped on one of his lives just because I was kind of curious. Um, if he had made any modifications to his predictions just based on some of the severity of the solar weather lately and how smaller solar events are causing way more more powerful geostorms here. And I'm asking him questions, other people are asking questions, and he just spends the whole time making fun of everybody or getting mad at them for asking questions and telling them that he made a playlist. It's like, what the hell are you doing a live for? The only thing he was doing was trash talking back with trolls, making fun of all the people that were asking legitimate questions, flipping the fuck out, trying to pretend he's an alpha male. The guy, acting all tough. It's just like, dude, like he looked like he was possessed. And so when that happened, I told him off and I just told him about how much work I had done to get people to his channel only to be completely regretting sending anybody to him because of his horrible personality. It doesn't seem like he's always been like that, but he certainly is now. And it was jaw dropping to me. And, when I got off after I, let him know, uh, how disappointed I was, I just spent the rest of the night feeling like extra alone. I don't know Ben that well. I don't spend a lot of time watching his videos. I kind of, every now and then I'll check his morning update, but it was this, and I guess I'm making a point. It's just a really long one, but it's just this feeling of like a person like me who's a creator who discusses a lot of these very important, pertinent topics that should have high priority and have almost zero priority. You look for other people in the space to sort of like remind you that you're not alone in this sort of, whatever battle of truth. And I've just seen all those people who I kind of look to as sort of like my colleagues in the culture fall off. And it's always the same thing. It's always a degradation of character, a loss of integrity. The thing that we need the most right now. Everyone's got a stupid fucking theory. Most of them are so fucking dumb. And they sort of subtly relate it to how it's going to save us, right? Whether it's AI or aliens or crypto or exposing the deep state. But what every single one of them misses is that the fundamental foundational problem is a lack of character and a lack of integrity, how we treat each other. No reverence for creator, no reverence for creation, and no reverence for created, especially human beings, but also animals, plants, the earth itself. There's no more reverence. There's no more sense of magic, respect, love. All these things are cringe, bro, kind of thing. And it's why everything's falling apart. Because we don't try to tap into that love. And the people who do try to tap into the love, it becomes harder and harder to do so because you get on the internet and the things that rise to the top are the absolute worst examples of human beings. You see human beings saying and doing terrible shit, and people who are looking to try to recapture their humanity or maintain it or get broadcast that important um, sort of modality. We're all losing our ability to relate to people because, like I said, they're pushing all the most phony, um, bankrupt types of people, and so that's all you're seeing on the screen. So you're seeing all these poor examples of human beings, and it gives you less of a reason, less of a desire to do anything for anyone because you're like, this is what I'm saving. These types of people. Granted, there's millions, maybe billions of people who aren't like that, but all those people don't get a voice. The more true you are to goodness, to good, to God, to Christ, the less you're gonna see, or the less people are gonna see you, less action you're gonna get. Um, it's just crazy to me to watch this. It's like grown ass toddlers playing with our old toys, but for all the wrong reasons. Well, also, um, projecting a character that's horrible, like it's setting a terrible example for young people, for even older people who are trying to find their center, trying to find a right and righteous way to live. You have these people who are at this fake theatrical cutting edge of knowledge and wisdom, but have no idea what they're talking about, who are telling fairy tales, who are also like have terrible characters, basically occupying most of the visual space. So subtly retraining people to emulate their character. It's an absolute degradation of of human norms. It is a human norm to pursue virtuous behavior, but that's almost been completely deleted. It's this giant social engineering project, and I've spent lots of time considering, contemplating, studying the pervasiveness of the technology. Let's call it this: the whole internet, the whole weapon system that is the internet. And still, I haven't even, I'm sure, barely scratched the surface. Um, Contemplated only a very small fraction of the iceberg of how pervasive it actually is, how influential it actually is. When I say pervasive, I mean like in every aspect of our lives, saturated to the point where it's like the oxygen in the air. You don't even notice it. And I think it's just a really, really big social engineering project, not even an experiment. It's not an experiment. It's a project with end goals. And yeah, I'm at a loss for what to do. Like I've been feeling this for a year or more. Like, where does this lead to? Like what the hell can you do to sway it in any direction? And my answer now is because you can do nothing. There's nothing you can do. It's a weapon system. It's a digital prison. That's its intent and goal. And it's like you wouldn't use a gun to stop it from being shot, right? It's like you can't transmogrify technology into something else. You can't take a handgun and turn it into a vase of flowers. So, especially by using the conventional wisdom of the handgun. So, by using the conventional wisdom of the internet, even if it's like, oh, we'll get the word out there. Do you understand the very fundamental, like, it's a near fundamental quality of the internet to be able to censor anything that criticizes it. I mean, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of things you're going to get censored for criticizing on the internet. But there's one thing that will make it descend on you, with the legions and armies available, and that is to criticize the internet itself, to criticize the very nature of this technology. Will get you more censored than anything else. Will make your phone start magically bugging out more than anything else. Criticize Israel, criticize the president, criticize whatever. You're going to get some pushback. Criticize the actual technology and what it's actually doing to people. you know, and they have all these pressure releases with controlled opposition that will sort of touch on topics, make you think, like, Candace Owens with Israel. She's just a pressure release. She's so controlled opposition, whether she knows it or not, but it's just a pressure release. Yeah, the layers and levels of control that they have and the tactics and strategies they have for that control are kind of mind bending. So they'll have a Candace Owens who will pretend like the government doesn't like her and she's really pushing the envelope here. She's not at all. She's talking about Bridget Macron having a penis, and she was living off the corpse of Charlie Kirk for 2 months, promoting every bird-brained theory when every single one of us knows we are never going to figure out what happened with Charlie Kirk. If it's been almost 60 years, I'm sorry, a little over 50 years since the JFK assassination, and we still don't know for certain, we don't have the receipts to that, the hell makes you think we are ever going to get the receipts to Charlie Kirk? And the reason we'll never get those receipts is because we never look the monster in the eyes. It's always some peripheral thing. It's always some side quest. It's never the thing. Right? We never talk about the thing. Even when they talk about the cabal and the deep state, notice they always redirect it to some stupid thing. Like the deep state is after Trump. Trump is the deep state. He's employed by the deep state. He always has been. All the stuff that they did with the left and the criticism of Trump, Trump was in on that. It was all intentional. That's why it was so goofy and like over the top, because it wasn't real. It was so over the top because it tried to get people to side with Trump. The whole plan was to side with Trump. The radical left's whole thing was to help push people in the direction of supporting Trump so that we could be here and Trump could do all the horrible stuff he's doing now and people would support it regardless because we don't want to go back to the radical left. The radical left was a theatrical performance. They're all working for the same team. So, the whole time that you think that a Russell Brand or a Candace Owens or even a Nick Fuentes or any of these people are helping to shed light on the real problem, they always miss the mark. And although sometimes I think they miss the mark because they are underinformed, but still genuine, like I would say Nick Fuentes is, I'm not sure about him. He might genuinely still have a heart for what's right, but after I've seen him do 180s on certain things, unfortunately, the 180 was in the right direction, but for the wrong reasons, right? So he was laughing when that one guy got killed by a drone, a Palestinian, right? Saying take the L. Very evil thing to do. And I think he caught on that a lot of the people that like him also support Palestine. And so he started, I think, to pretend to care. Started saying things that were completely out of character and personality. So I'm like, oh man. Also a phony. So, these people are full of shit. I like Theo Vaughn though. Unfortunately, Theo Vaughn is about to come under a lot of stress and pressure. Thank you for all the hearts, by the way. I see it looks like there's 1,000 people in here. How many hearts are coming up? So I appreciate that a lot. Thank you. Unfortunately, Theo Vaughn's probably going to come under a lot of pressure or stress. He's going to be in a lot of people's crosshairs for a little while. I pray for him. He's doing God's work. Asking the questions that he's asking. That Joe Rogan interview was embarrassing for Joe. Absolutely pathetic. Theo Von did an excellent job completely exposing what Joe Rogan has become. Excellent. Like a masterclass, almost like he he planned it. Um, but I think it was in real time where he's like, "Oh, Joe's a fucking fed. Let me push his buttons because fuck him." You could tell that Joe was upset with him, like, really upset. And then he realized that all the little snide remarks and jokes that Joe had been doing was Joe being an asshole, not Joe being a funny friend. And so it all clicked for Theo on that. I forgot which moment it was, but you saw his face where Theo asked a question that had an obvious answer, and Joe answered in a different way that was a total lie. And Theo's like, "You motherfucker." So I hope Theo doesn't go back on the show. I hope Theo cuts his ties with Joe, and I hope Theo's just. I never thought I'd be a person that would recommend people be a little more quiet and reserved. I never thought I'd be that person, but I'm starting to become that person because I don't think this is a winning battle in any scenario. I think this is a losing battle if you try to fight it. And I think you have to let this thing, whatever this monster, take its course, and you have to get the fuck out of the way. And the reason I say that it's not like fear of, you know, being targeted and harassed or assassinated or anything like that. I mean, like, it's a reasonable thing to be afraid of, but um, in situations like this, you have to crack a few eggs to make an omelet. But when it gets to the point where the only thing that's going to happen is the egg's going to get cracked and you're never going to get an omelet, then I'm like, well, we're not hedging our bets very well. If we're ramming our heads into this brick wall that is made of reinforced concrete or made with reinforced concrete. So I'll just say that I hope Theo has or gains the wisdom to navigate this correctly, take care of his, take care of him and his, you know, and looks to God, prays a lot, pays attention, keeps his ears open for the advice he needs as he's really waking up to this stuff. I hope Theo really digs in. I mean, you can tell it's eating at him a little bit. You can. Oh, there's a lot of comments here. I'm sorry, guys. It just stopped. I hate when it does that. All right, I'm gonna go. Let me go through the comments first. Okay. Yeah, I don't know why it's so frustrating when it does that. U.S. is in a state of shock, but ready to fight back. Yeah, I think. Yeah, we're in this weird like shock period. Yeah, the TikTok stuff, Caesar is just. It just got so frustrating. Like I can't do it anymore. Yeah, yeah, Caesar, and that's a really good observation, and not a lot of people understand that unless they are also creators. That like I never thought that it would be like this. I'm sure it's stressful in general for creators, but the creators who are talking about stuff that they're not supposed to talk about, I can't tell you. I've never been under more stress in my life, and I haven't had an easy go. I had to fist fight all the way up the whole time. Like my whole life has been it's been a struggle. It was never a handout. So I didn't have my whole family was poor. I worked for everything. Of course, that doesn't mean I didn't have generous people in my life that helped me out. I just mean like it wasn't a cakewalk, but being a content creator and telling the truth was one of the most stressful and strenuous things that ever happened in my life. Like really. Caesar, unfortunately with Discord, it's that I had the worst experience with Discord. The reason being is because I'll start a little community, it'll be great at first, and all of a sudden you'll get these 3 or 4 bad actors that do like CIA level psychological operations on your people. Like it's evil shit. It's so weird. It, I was blown away. by how horrible just like these random 2 or 3 people in there were, how much they tried to undermine me, how like I would make very reasonable rules, like, hey, no tarot readings in the community. If you want to do tarot readings, you're a content creator, make content, connect with your people. You don't do it with my people. Very simple rule. Just don't do tarot readings. Don't solicit for it. Nothing. The next day, people would be in people's DMs offering tarot readings, just like completely going out of their way, to break the rules and be shitty. And but they would do the tarot readings and give them really strange advice and be playing this weird music in the background. They did it to one person, and the person went off the deep end. They kind of half lost their mind. And that's just one of 100 stories on Discord. I think they send people in there. I don't know who these people are. Intelligence agencies, rival content creators, just covens of black magic, whatever. They come in, they do super weird shit, very like psychological abuse and manipulation. I can't police all of it. I can't be there all the time. People often will not even tell me things because they feel uncomfortable or they don't realize that they're being fucked with, but they are being fucked with. And it was so overwhelming that I had to shut it down. That was really unfortunate. Sarah's totally losing the way, and it sucks because we thought these were well-rounded people. Yeah, yeah, that's the worst part is that they're kind of Trojan horses in that way, Sarah. By the way, nice to see you. Um, I'm guessing that you saw my earlier comment to what time I was doing it. I want to make sure that you caught this one because I know you missed it yesterday. Yeah, so it was like a Trojan horse, right? They put these people in front of our faces. They say all the right things. The issue is that we give people the benefit of the doubt because they're saying the things that we believe in, but they're not saying them in depth because we're giving them the benefit of the doubt because just assume people are decent generally, that they're not faking it. But they'll say something that's to flip on the radar, and then we look back at the things they said, and it's like, oh, they're just repeating some shit X, Y, and Z said. They're not articulating. They don't actually understand anything that they're saying. Yeah, all platforms are controlled, in my opinion, too. Maybe we should try to build a new platform where we can openly speak about these topics. Well, this is the thing, Caesar, is like just like the Discord thing. They'll just decimate it. Very unfortunate. Is his girlfriend and wife is a part of Masada? Wait, which Caesar? Who is that? Oh, Kash Patel. Really interesting. Caesar, that's a great question. I'm just trying to get through all the comments so I make sure I'm not missing anything because I'll probably go on a tangent about that question. Must be scary fearing for your life and stuff. Yeah, Caesar, and at this point, it's like, so I've been going through a lot of Kundalini stuff too, which will really push you to the edge of like dealing with all of your fears. Yes, they're up to something with Turning Point. They want to use that energy and momentum probably to prop up their next soul pitch into JD Vance. So yeah, it's the next day. It's like we don't honor the dead, man. There's no rest for the wicked. That's for sure. As Caesar is saying, what you were saying right here, you had a question. He made a statement. Project looking back. Okay, yeah. Okay. Caesar, yeah, it's hard because it like I said, the weapon is the weapon system is so pervasive. And personally, I've tried so many times. Like when I'm telling you, like if I have a cool idea for a little movement and I start like a restricted section in a Discord, it's not just that even though there's only a few people that know a particular thing we're working on, it will get flooded with all these new people and they'll start doing weird shit and there'll be weird stuff happening in my real life at the very time that I'm trying to pull the trigger on something like what you're discussing. And I'm never going to be one of those people that says, don't try. I'm not that person at all. What I'm saying though, is I think we have to try something so fundamentally different and that it's going to require us to navigate a extremely treacherous landscape at orders of magnitude more treacherous and complex than we've ever been able to imagine in the human history. It's going to have to be so outside of the box. Yeah, Sarah, for instance, the ether. And even that's complicated because we know they're toxifying the ether. And we know that they've been doing research for decades on how to operate in the ether themselves. Yeah, so we'll touch on that a little more. Again, I'm sure in this conversation, but let's discuss the Operation Looking Glass stuff and this idea that psyop that keep us basically passive, um, so that we don't take action. I think that's the case most of the time. It's clearly the case with the second coming return of Christ, because we all know. Yeah, me too, Sarah. Um, I know we've been working on a project and it's been hard. I'm also going through a lot of my own baggage. And I have a lot more that I've picked up the last couple of years that I didn't realize was as heavy as it is. So that's an issue for me too, is I'm sifting through my own. You have to get through all of your own psychic pollution, your own psychic toxic stuff before you can even start to break into the projection areas and all that and lucid dreaming. So I'm still working on that too. So that's a big part of it. And yeah, my other concern is even once you break through, you're operating in a space that I think is becoming hostily taken over by these same people that are hostily taking over the physical realm. And 5G has a lot to do with it. Yeah, so Sarah, let's just keep pumping away, right? The only thing to do um is keep your head down, work hard. You know what I mean? Pound pavement, and make your observations, collect your data, right? See if this worked better or that worked better. When I stopped drinking coffee before noon, I had better, you know what I mean? I slept better and I had more lucid dream, whatever it is. Just keep track of it, and just keep making adjustments to try to maximize and optimize, right? Yeah. So, I mean, look, I do want to discuss Operation Looking Glass specifically, but let's start um, more generally with it. Uh, the second coming stuff with Jesus coming back to save us, clearly that's not happening. This isn't a disrespect to Christ. This isn't a disrespect to Christianity, but fundamentally, it's trying to help people break the spell of a lie superimposed over Christ and Christianity to get people to take a back seat and let horrible things happen. Even if it is true, we should still be acting as if we are responsible, at least for our own conduct. That whole Christ thing completely nullifies any ability for people to have personal conviction for their own behavior. It's a complete joke. It's a black magic spell. 100%. Every single angle you look at that thing, every single thing is meant to make you feel shame for existing, but also at the same time, don't feel any conviction for the things you actually do wrong. Offload all of your responsibilities onto a fictitious, magical narrative, caricature, by the way, a caricature of a character of a real person that may or may not have existed at an exact time in ancient history. That's what you're dealing with, right? Same thing, Galactic Federation. I've been noticing lately, like I'll watch videos on like YouTube, and I'm just realizing how like I watch something, I'm like, oh, this is interesting, and I listen to it more, and I listen to it more, I listen to it more, and there's no like, but really working with the meat about whatever topic it is. It's just fantasizing over and over again. It's just it's just fetishizing. It's fetishizing millennial reign and a little season. It's fetishizing Christ's return. It's fetishizing with an SH. It's fetishizing time travel. Yeah, exactly, Caesar. It on the surface, it's goofy and cartoonish, and yet people continue to believe in it. A galactic federation that has allegedly been all around inside of our solar system has always evaded all all discovery, who is constantly telling us that they're going to help us but never do. People are still believing. So what I'm realizing now, and I'm watching certain people who have pushed to the narrative edges of the culture, like millennial reign Tartaria mud flood is like right on the edge before you make the leap and realize the bigger truth. But you can see these types of people on the fringes and they're coming undone. They're not shaving anymore. For people that like would shave all the time. Me, I'm not big. I've never really kept up with shaving. But like, I mean, like when you let yourself go, they're coming undone because they're realizing the narrative is bullshit, that all narratives are bullshit. And they've been married to whatever narrative to keep them going psychologically. Caesar more just the general Galactic Federation, where like, yeah, they might include and incorporate the Anunnaki, they might not. It might be the Greys, the tall whites, right? The Greys, the Nords, and the Blues. You know, there's a couple of different. That's another thing that makes it so goofy, right? It's like there's not even just one singular agreed upon narrative. There's like a bunch of. It's just like a religion, right? You got Christianity and Catholicism and Protestant and Baptist and non-denominational. Everything just gets tweaked. And they just tweak whatever they want. And then every single one pretends like their one is the real one grounded in reality when they've just been tweaking and adding flavor to all these different sects based on what they want. Not based on like some revelation, some scientific experiment that proved something right. No, it's just like on a whim. It's like, nah, I don't think God would think like that. And I was listening to something the other day. Someone was asking a pastor, and the pastor was like, God feels this way about this thing. And I'm like, who the fuck are you to tell anyone what God's thinking? It's like they'll interpret the Bible. What God means here is they don't back it up with like a follow up verse where God said another thing. They're just like, this is what God meant by that. I'm just like, if people have not figured it out yet that are within the religion, I'm not sure they're going to, because I think I shouldn't say that, because things are only going to become more undone and unravel more. So, but at the same time, the amount of people still hooked on all these narratives is kind of crazy to me, because everything's unraveling. Everything's unraveling. The box and the echo chamber you have to keep yourself into to stop you from asking any questions about your whatever, your selected narrative. And that's got to be a hermetically sealed box at this point because nothing's panning out, nothing's paying off. We've been in year four of tribulations for a decade. It's like, when are people going to realize that these narratives are falsely constructed? Yeah, Caesar, that's a great point. It's like, for instance, in the entire Bible, there's not one mention of original sin. That's fucking crazy. There is not one mention of original sin. It is all, I think it's called inductive reasoning. Whatever reasoning is the shitty one, where you say, well, if this is true, then this must be true. It's all based on one, original assumption and then extrapolated with human logic, which isn't even sound in and of itself because it's always cutting corners, as opposed to watching a thing happen, um, phenomenologically in the real world over and over again and being able to draw conclusions and reason based on that. Like, if the sun rises every day, the sun should rise tomorrow, as opposed to, well, if this has happened, then it must mean that this thing's going to happen and this thing's going to happen. Just like becoming more and more assumptive, and every time losing fidelity and integrity, the same way when you keep re-recording over that tape keeps losing, or the whatever it's called, the rumor game where everyone says something in the ear and it goes around and you see if it says the same thing at the end. It's the same bullshit. But yeah, it never says once in the Bible anything about original sin. There's nothing in there. So we have an entire doctrine that is the fucking foundations of the religion. That's crazy. And there's those inconsistencies everywhere. Christ says, after this, you that you're a God and you're evil. And I say, isn't it written in your law that you are too? I'm reading the same book as you. Somehow we came to different conclusions, except mine is actually backed up by the scripture. Right? And then, yeah, what they'll do, Caesar, as you pointed out, is they'll give you some half-assed bird-brained explanation as to what that really meant. And you see these people twist words all the time. Wes Huff, what is his name? Wes Huff. He's one of the most full of shit, demonic fake Christians out there right now. Like, it's crazy. Like, at first I was like, oh, well, this guy's and then I saw it in his eyes, and there's darkness. He's possessed. And he goes around spitting bullshit. Jesus wasn't a moralist. Jesus didn't want you to take personal responsibility. You fucking asshole. He's just being paid by somebody, maybe Joel Osteen. Really? That's interesting. I wonder why. Like, I wonder why he like publicly came out just instead of just being a bisexual, right? Like, that's another thing, right? So I wonder if that's a play. There's been this big push to get more people to worship Christianity because they're trying to create this Abrahamic totalitarian techno tyranny type thing. And they want to incorporate the Yahweh cult of Judeo Christianity into crypto, into the digital ID. Like, it's this monster they're trying to create. I think they want to get as many people on board and, accept the mark of the beast. So maybe he's trying to appeal to people who would not necessarily, yeah, I'm getting them. Yeah, maybe he would not necessarily, that would not necessarily see Christianity as appealing, but if they see a voice that they're clearly propping up Westhoff, but if, they see a voice who holds a sexual preference or a position like that, it might attract more people to it. So that could be the play, or maybe he just wanted to come out and it's completely unrelated. But yeah, I'm getting them now. Al Khatib. At first, it just stopped scrolling, and now I remember that on here you got to keep making sure that it doesn't stop. Because sometimes it does. Yeah. So I mean, I kind of picked up on that anyway, like with him. But yeah, it's interesting. Like he made it a public thing instead of just being it. So I would like anytime I see that kind of stuff, especially when it's like kind of taboo. It's taboo in the sense that he's like this Christian historian. He's very religious, and then he comes out as bisexual. I always wonder if there's a game being played there, right? Yeah, it's weird. Like I said, my internet is fantastic. Like it's really, really good. Um, I'll check it right now just out of curiosity. Just want to do a speed test. Yeah, like I'm doing like 400 megabits per second on download and 400 on upload. So it's definitely not on my end, right? 400, 400 upload, download. I'm good, right? I'm sure that it's probably not possible that like all of you, all of a sudden, your internet's not functioning properly, or like several of you have mentioned. It's sort of one of those frustrating things. I don't think Substack is struggling. Yeah, like Sarah, like it's probably Substack, but like not for like technical, natural technical issues. More like throttling, yeah. But I hope you guys aren't missing too much from what I'm saying. But notice, like, I mean, how long are you going to stay if I'm talking with food in my mouth, right? And it's choppy like this. Eventually, you're gonna be like, I like what he's saying, but I can't. Doesn't matter if I can't hear all the sentences he's saying. I'm losing the context of everything. So that's another way they throttle you and like censor you and stuff. So, or it's actually a bad internet connection or whatever. So just making sure I didn't miss any comments. Yeah. So what were we saying? What were we talking about? Yeah. So the narratives. So this is what I'm noticing. The world's mouse. Everything is going away, folks. Everything. Everything you loved and cherished about the old world is dissolving. We have been completely taken over by psychopaths, and they have almost 100% control. Not just over all of our most important technologies, but over the future. They're fighting in a war that also is like they're fighting it with the future. Like they're seeing decades ahead and seeing how they can continue to possess, control technologies and peoples and so on and so forth. They're thinking way ahead of time. They have total control over the AI systems, the robotic systems. We're in the nightmare world. Like I'm not being a nihilist. I'm not being cynical. If you take a step back and you look at everything, we are already in the hell that we have for a very long time worried wasn't coming until the future. We're inside of every dystopian horror movie combined with an exponent on it. This is somehow worse than a Brave New World, somehow worse than The Matrix, but it's both of them and more. And I think that people are struggling to come to terms with that. Notice I'm not like mopey and you know what I mean? I'm not in a bad state of mind. I'm not seeing the world through shit colored glasses. I'm very coherent. I'm very sober and lucid. And I see the world, and I don't think that it could never be good. And I see these little sparks of hope here and there when things happen. But I look at the overall picture. I see how horrible things are. I see how people aren't allowed to say any of the important things that matter. Um, I see, I mean, Venezuela is a perfect example of how horrible and evil our country is and how much they can get away with. They're just sitting boats on the coast of Venezuela, bombing who the fuck ever. Sometimes they're just fishermen. They have somehow convinced enough of the American population that there is no difference between narco terrorism and imperialism. They have merged and blurred everything. Genocides are now wars on terrorism. Think about that. Genocides are now wars on terrorism. Yeah. Um, and then Venezuela, it's the same thing. Imperialism is counter narco terrorism. They're just getting rid of Venezuela because they're allies with the East and they have a bunch of raw materials that we could benefit from. They'll never say that. And this is whole we're going to start doing land operations for narco terrorism. It's crazy. What what they're really doing is we're going to invade Venezuela. That's what's actually about to happen. But what are they saying? We're going to do land operations to counter narco terrorism. You mean you're going to invade a sovereign country without the consent of any um, judicial international system of approval and solve their problems for them? Most problems you have manufactured, but there's no distinction anymore. There's no distinction with regular people who have completely healthy, normal brains who could do the critical thinking. There's no distinction at the international court level. There's no distinction in, like you might hear it from Putin, right? Or Xi Jinping or Kim Jong un. But like the rest of the world doesn't say shit until it's too late. 2 months ago, French said they were going to acknowledge the Palestinian state 3 months from then. It was like September. It's like, we're going to acknowledge Palestine in 3 months. And I'm thinking in my head, I guess that's when it's over. I guess that's when Palestine gets completely wiped out. And that's why they're saying 3 months. How fucking stupid do they think their people are? We're going to acknowledge a state who is currently being genocided and purposely starved to death. We're going to do that in 3 months when they're probably all dead or displaced. So, I mean, just think about all of these things, all of these little things happening here and here and here. These are echoes of the evil that exist at the fundamental foundations of our entire system. These are the things they're showing you. These are the things they're just letting be out in the open for you to see. Now just use your imagination on all the things they're not showing you and how rooted this evil is in our system. Yeah, the ICE thing. What ICE what ICE will become is the like the Gestapo of the police state. That's why there's massive hiring, but at the same time, there's um not a lot of deportation. And now, like instead of solving whatever real illegal immigrant issue there may be, they're constantly adding. Maybe we get rid of naturalized citizens who are talking too much about Israel. It's the execution is brilliant. The execution is brilliant. Back in the day, they used to say, we need some strapping lads to put on a uniform for 'em and beat the shit out of people. Now it's like a 2-year campaign to pretend that they're hiring a bunch of ICE agents to make America great again. What they're really hiring is the errand boys and boot stoppers of the police state. And they're already slowly at, well, maybe naturalized citizens get denaturalized. Well, maybe citizens that were born here that are unpatriotic, maybe we get rid of them too. Oh, no one will take them. No one will take them in other countries. Maybe we put them in fucking camps. Hey, the camps are getting overrun. Maybe we fucking kill them. That's what they're going for. That's why they're doing the mass hiring on X. They're doing mass hiring on X. You see tons of billboards for it. It's the same kind of Uncle Sam wants you, except now it's like work for a company where we're going to pay you egregious amounts of money. Look at those sign-on bonuses, $50,000. Why do you think they're giving you a $50,000 sign-on bonus? We'll leave this to a quiz to the chat. Why do you think in these ICE advertisements offering $50,000 sign-on bonuses with also on top of that very, very generous salaries? Everyone was worried about China. Everyone was worried about Russia. No one was worried about Israel, right? For now, people are, but no one was worried about. I wouldn't be surprised, Caesar, if the IDF is training. Jameson, yeah, in a sense, there's that. But why do you think? Like, think about like the practical, the real world, like the physicality of it. Why do you think they're offering $50,000 sign-on bonuses to ICE? Think about it. Think about the history, think about how I just compared them to other movements in the past. And I want to say something about what you just said, Al Khatib. But I do want to see if anybody can guess this one. Why are they offering $50,000 sign-on bonuses on top of very generous salaries to these ICE agents? I'll answer that. A chance because of what they're about to ask you to do. Because when they put that gun in your hand and tell you to pull the trigger, you're going to remember that $50,000 sign-on bonus. And that guilt's going to be a big influencer to you just doing what you're fucking told. $50,000, it's a lot of money because they want you to do a lot of bad things in about a year or two, right? Caesar, I think there's probably a lot of, and this kind of goes to what you were saying, Al Khatib. I think there's probably a lot of stuff in place that you get indoctrinated very fast. You are subjected to a subtle and veiled threats very quickly. To the point where I guarantee you will only, because Al Khatib talking about getting in there and then overthrowing it. Unfortunately, this is also not going to be a viable option because what you're going to find, someone like you, for instance, if you were to join ICE, I guarantee in 3 to 6 months, you will have either the choice to start drinking the Kool-Aid or leaving with the constant fear that you are on a list for the rest of your life and that you'll be one of the first people that they pick up, right? So, and I'm not trying to paint a picture of a dystopian future. I'm just telling you all the writing that's on the wall with it. Um, I think it's really important to, while at the same time, um, sobering up to where we're at, it's also not good to imagine what it's going to be like. Although at the same time, it's important to have a certain predictive power with certain things so that you avoid being a part of something that's going to eventually be horrible. So, with all that being said, what do we do? You know, the old stuff doesn't seem to be working, right? This idea that let's create something online, a digital community that we know those get sabotaged all the time. I mean, we're talking right now about this. I guarantee something's listening, whether it's a person or a bot is listening to everything we're saying. That doesn't mean that's not, it's not about my channel special and I'm so big. It's nothing to do with that. It's that they have the capability to spy on anyone at any time. And as soon as you say a couple keywords, hot phrases, they're on you. They're probably on you before that. If you've done it once, if you've got 3 or 4 people in your community that would talk about those things, they're always listening. So as soon as you do that, they're going to want, let's say, like you say something, oh, that's not a bad idea. We should create a da da da. They're watching my computer all night. They're watching everything I search. They're seeing if I'm going to try to learn how to code and create my own app. They're going to make sure that they mess with the code as I'm writing stuff. Like they're on top of all of it. So what do we do? Like what are our options at this point? Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think it's not a far stretch I think that in the past we were like, oh, people are paranoid. I think they're being watched. But I don't think people understand the resources and the manpower that these intelligence agencies and the government actually have. Man, the actual country is an iceberg. Most of everything happening at the highest levels are happening in the deepest bunkers, right? They have entire populations down there. The people we've never met, that we'll never meet. They definitely have the manpower to put a person in your life and anybody's life that they think needs a little bit of handling. Um, so what are our options? Follow God. Like this has been hard for me, not like to follow God in general, but to follow God to the extent. Um, yeah, he wants to know how you would move in those situations, Isaac. So he's watching your GTA. He's like, well, if he was to steal a car and make a getaway, you know, what corner would he take? What neighborhood would he try to hide in? These types of things, right? Maybe that's what video games are all about, is actually to test our in real life decision making for future scenarios. Anyway, um following God to the extent that's required for times like these. So, like, I finally got the house to myself a little bit, which is nice. Uh, I'm not going to go too much into detail because it always causes drama, but I've been in a very precarious situation for the past few years. Um, and it's degraded. Yeah, that's the word. Degraded much more recently, and to the point where I'm like very alone. Not in like the sad way. Just it's I have no in real life friends. I don't talk to any of my family, and a lot of this is because of the whole COVID transition, and most of the people in my life lost their fucking minds, so I couldn't talk to them anymore. But anyways, I have absolutely nothing to do. I think about, nah, maybe I'll write something, maybe I'll make a video. I don't even care because I know it's half of you aren't even going to be able to see it. Um, let alone it actually like making any larger impact on the culture or whatever. So I'm just like staring at walls a little bit and I'm like, what the hell? Right. And you get that little kind of nervous, anxious feeling, like the feeling sense of being alone in the universe. And then you think about the way the world is and how crazy it is, and you feel more alone. And I think this is sort of something that's going to be creeping up on all of us more and more. And there is no remedy besides a very intimate relationship with the transcendent. You can call it God, you can call it creator, and call it nature if you want. I think ultimately, if your heart's in the right place, you will come to know what it truly is, regardless of whatever word you're using or concept that you're using to pursue it. I think it's really important to pray a lot and to just check in with God on an hourly, maybe minute basis. Check in with the Spirit of Christ, with the Holy Spirit. Breathe deeply in the nose and out the mouth. Pray. Constantly pray. Um, ask for guidance and wisdom. Ask for your heart to not harden. Ask for you to be a gift for the world and a tool for good. And don't be afraid to cut off anything in your life that's starting to feel a little dirty. You know what I mean? Whether that's a person in your life, whether that's just being on the internet or scrolling on one of these things, don't be afraid. It's the loneliness feels really scary at first, but as long as you got your eyes on the prize and you're actually sitting with God in devotion, um, that fear, that sadness, whatever episode, panic attack that you have to have, that subsides and there is peace and bliss on the other side. And I don't think there's anything else worth doing besides that. Is to strengthen your relationship with God, is to seek to know what that means. I don't think any of us have it like bullseyed, um, what it all means. The situation could be even worse than we could imagine, or it could be much better than we imagine. But I think at this point, if there's meaning to this and purpose, I think the meaning and purpose is to check people to see what you would do in the absolute worst situation, to see if you would still be able to maintain righteous priorities. That's not, it shouldn't be your motivation for why you choose to be good and do good. Right. But with everything as horrible as it is, and I know for the people that are on here, it has all become unpalatable. Then what else is there to do? We know what's destroying the world. It's hatred, it's apathy, it's greed, it's all these, worst parts of the human being are in the worst ways that a human being can be exploited. So we know what the antidote is. It's to be good. It's to be loving. It's to be just, right? Because it's not just loving everybody. Some people deserve justice. Some people deserve for you to put your foot down. Um, stand up to them. Not always, smiles and hugs either, but like there's a balance. But it's the loss of justice and mercy and courage and kindness and love and gratitude and reverence. This is what's destroying the world. Because all those people who have found themselves in the seats of power don't care about any of those things. And now they're indoctrinating and socially engineering the rest of the world to feel the same way so they can get away with more. So the only antidote is to be more like Christ. You want to use Buddha as the example, you want to use Socrates as the example, by all means. Um, again, I think it's about the intent in your heart, you know, like what you're doing it for. Yeah, Isaac. And I think a lot of people are getting power and they've forgotten. But a lot of times they're in the beginning, they're just selling themselves something that was true anyway. But yeah, that's my advice. I mean, my advice has been the same thing now for 6 months to a year. It's like pray, pray more, talk to God more. Ask yourself how you could be more decent in the indecent world. I don't think we're going to be able to save the proverbial puppy or cat out of the tree. I don't think it's like that anymore. I think this is a test of our own endurance and fortitude and integrity. Whether that's the intent or it's just become what it is. Um, we find ourselves in the position that we feared for so long was coming, and we're a bit powerless to make real change to this physicality of the situation. So I think that the most important thing, as hard as it is find love in your heart for humanity, for creation. I know they're trying to make that all of that feel bad. Try to find peace and try to be good. Try to be decent. Try to still find love. Try to still find a way to spread that love, that kindness, that wisdom, that courage, that mercy, that justice, in whatever small ways you can do that. Like this is my small way, right? Talking to all of you and just driving these points home. Don't really have any interactions with people other than that. So it's just me trying to put myself back together when things fall apart and trying to reconnect with like the true me outside of the context of all this crazy shit that has happened. I'll try outside of the context of whatever the internet has done to reprogram my mind. Be at peace. I don't, if there's light at the end of the tunnel and a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, um, it's not here and now. Um, it can only come to us after transcendental moment. Whether that comes from our own evolution We actually kind of like snap out of the stupor and be like, wait, what the fuck is going on? What are we doing right now? Or if it's some intervention, maybe there's something, some supernatural intervention. Maybe there really is. Maybe the aliens really were testing us. Whatever. Um, but I think that i- we need to abandon these narratives. We need to connect with a God that isn't pre-assumed, its nature, its character, anthropomorphizing it, personifying it, all that stuff. Connect with the God as the concept of that which is good and like the Tao of the human species. It's very scary. It's very, very scary. Like make no mistake. This is terrifying what's happening right now. And the only reason that we don't feel constant terror is because we're distracting ourselves with something, right? Whether it's a narrative or a TV show or a scroll or talking to a friend or whatever it is, drugs and sex and whatever keeps our minds busy. It's the only reason we're not constantly terrified of what's happening right now. Constantly horrified, scared out of our wits, very, very sad, is simply because we're burying that signal with noise. But the bottom layer, the standing wave of existence isn't that terror. There can be peace, but it's still peace amongst the terror of what's happening. You have to be able to find a peace despite what's happening. I still hope that like there's a God and all this matters, and the reason this is happening is because people are being tested, and if they're going to reset this whole thing, it's like, all right, you guys did a really good job in that training program, and we found out like who had the most righteous hearts, and we're going to try to teach that more and help and like learn from like what specific experiences you had in your life that brought you to this place. And um I still like kind of go into little mini daydreams about all these potential scenarios where any of this makes sense. But deep down inside, I know that the most likely explanation to all this is that we fucked up or got fucked up by something. Maybe we were invaded by some, we'll call it extraterrestrial or interdimensional type thing that took over a bunch of people's minds and is slowly taking us over. And that exorcism and all that is actually the technology that the ancients used to use to kick these interdimensional beings out of you. And that's what we need to learn how to do. We need to fight back. Or because we as human animals, um, yeah, the sea people would be the sort of origin of like the first invasion, right? Their D-Day against us would be the sea people mystery, pretty much. Yeah. Um, or for instance, another scenario that's possibly an answer to how we've gotten here is that as animals, primarily, who for some reason had an explosive evolutionary expansion of the brain, are have lost control psychically, sociologically, to ourselves and to the species because we're being overwhelmed by our own intelligence that is not balanced with the necessary protocols and systems and contingencies to help a wild ape act right. A perfect example of this is like imagine like lions all of became sudden became sentient and bipedal. And you have a lion husband and wife, they have a couple kids together, But then they decided to get a divorce. Was really a lion husband and 10 lion wives and 30 lion kids. And they decided to get a divorce. And the new guy comes in, stepdad, and he kills all the children. Because that's what lions do. But at some point, they develop some sort of like moral justice system. Like, wait, this isn't cool. The kids are traumatized by this and they're terrified every time there's a divorce. They think they're all going to be murdered. Most of them are going to be murdered. Is this ethical? Right. But there's always this biological urge for the new male lion to kill all the children. Like, imagine if that was a function of us. And imagine if there was a point in history where we had to fix that. We have other examples like of our like biological behaviors. I'm not going to go into details because people will get their fucking feathers ruffled, even though I'm just telling the truth. I think a couple people here probably know what I'm talking about. But we have what we consider now to be egregious behavior, which were just biological imperatives of the species. But as we've developed cognitively, we're like, that's not cool. We understand suffering and pain. And so they are really inherently bad, but we had to like develop enough to see that. And it's inherently bad for us, but it's not inherently bad for the lion, for instance, because it's the Tao of their species as we're progressing and growing. So another explanation as to why all this bad shit's happening is because as we have created protocols and contingencies and systems, societally, culturally, legally, to help us modify our primal animalistic behaviors, we haven't been able to manage all of it. And at the same time, we're developing these technologies and the complexity of society and realities increasing exponentially, that we're now running out of our time to bookend that really important work of of going from being an animal to a human being. Like, babies are born animals. Yet you have to teach them to be humans. This idea of the human being isn't like the name of our species, right? A human being is a concept, right? That's why like it's closely related to humanity and having humanity, right? Um, so it's like anything. So they think of like the whole human species as sort of like, an infant or a toddler, an adolescent trying to make it adulthood while they're being given a bunch of, giving an iPad and toys and a car and alcohol. Like that's kind of like where we're at in society, is that we didn't finish the great work of like fully realizing our potential to be like gods, right? Lower G, but gods. And now we're creating God-like power and technology when we have not ourselves done the important inner work to deserve those powers. And it's getting out of hand now. It used to be kind of an issue, like, in the 1940s, dropping nukes on people and shit. Clearly, that was one of the best examples of how we were not fucking ready for our own intelligence, our own ingenuity and industriousness and the industriousness and our opposable thumbs, right? Our articulation of our digits, that we weren't ready for it. Clearly, there's no better example than the nuclear weapon and the use of it on hundreds of thousands of innocent people, to say that we weren't ready for our own intelligence. But now we haven't learned from the mistakes of the past. When a new war starts, the most frequent headline you'll hear is, how is the stock market going to be affected? Not, how are we going to prevent people from being murdered? Right? We haven't learned anything. We've actually gotten progressively worse. And now we're heading into something that will make the nuke look like child's play. That will do the same thing that the nuke did to the mortar, right? Like comparatively. with AI and robotics. We have not even the most tip top analysts of AI or just the experts and the engineers that have any fucking clue the power that's about to be created, or and what it's going to look like just 10 years down the road. We're not ready. We're not even close to ready. Because you could say, well, we never detonated a nuke again. Yeah, but now we just drop millions of pounds of explosives and kill just as many people. Nothing changed. We just stopped using the nuke to do it. But we found other ways to make other ordinances do, just as much damage for the same price. You know what I mean? So we didn't learn anything. Nothing's changed. We're now we're now live streaming genocides. Right? It's gotten progressive. It's gotten much worse. So that's another explanation to what's going on. And none of those explanations are comforting. And of course, that's I think a large part of why people try to lean on narrative or comfortable narratives, comforting narratives that don't make any sense because it helps them get out of bed. Am I better off? Are any of us better off because we don't fall for the bullshit? At this point, I'm not sure anymore. To be completely honest with you, it's like maybe. Um, but I'm under a lot more stress than the people that still have a narrative to believe in, right? Yeah, Terrence McKenna does a really good job at like yeah, explaining this idea, like, apes and blue jeans type thing. It's like we're we've been thrown into history, right? We've been thrown into the chaos of reality with tools we don't understand and powers that we underestimate. And essentially, the trek through history is one of us just essentially coming to terms with what we are and what we're capable of, both good and bad. Um, and that's, I think, personally the best narrative to live by. And when I say narrative, I don't mean in the pejorative sense. I mean like a real narrative. That's a real narrative. Whatever, if you want to believe in evolution or Anunnaki or whatever it is, we are animals to some extent, right? Like biological beings who have a lot of potential and capacity for intelligence and articulation, um, and creation. And at this point, we have the power to literally tear the world in half, right? So, and there are many examples of human beings who are incredibly immature and dangerous. So those things coexisting at the same time, very scary. Um, but if you live by that narrative, the solution becomes easy. Get your shit together and help other people do the same. The issue with the narrative, especially now, is that narrative, people who live that way are targeted by the horde, right? But they shot Martin Luther King and JFK and Malcolm X and Gandhi, and they crucified Jesus Christ, who were all those types of people who were like character counts. Like ultimately, character, integrity are the most important things. All those people get assassinated, right? And so at the same time, there's this sort of reverse immune system against the most reasonable people with the most reasonable solutions to our problems. So, like, to me, that's scary, right? Because, like, what does that mean? Does it mean there's something infecting the fabric of human society. Because if you look at the way things are, it's like it's a very inhuman world. And like, so I always live by this, like, what is the Tao of the species? What Let's stop thinking of ourselves as a particular like egotistical like character in a drama, and let's see ourselves more as a function or process of the manifold or unfolding um, process of creation. But what I found, and that's true, like that's actually true. Compared to Galactic Federation, Jesus Christ, string theory, all this other bullshit, sci-fi and fantasy. That's what I just said was real. It's a real sort of meta narrative, meta logic to reality in our existence. So it's a good place to start to operate phenomenologically as a person who also maybe is contemplating how to solve problems in a human world. But it is attacked so severely. Like the rest of society is weaponized against that type of thinking and that type of problem solving. When I realized that, I became much more worried because it seemed coordinated, which made me concerned that there is an anti-human agency in the world. And then I think about Christ and like the story of Jesus Christ or Yeshua, or whatever name you want to call him, and how like you could tell that was kind of his arc as well. I'm not trying to compare myself directly to Jesus Christ because it's the same arc as Martin Luther King. It's the same arc as JFK. They all made their fucking speeches where they're like, yo, there's something weirder going on here, guys. It's not just that we're fumbling. There's something way fucking crazier happening. Someone's forcing the fumble on us, right? Anybody who goes down this path of viewing the world phenomenologically, seeing people for what they actually, seeing like the human form for what it actually is, like taking the actual knowns and then applying that information only and reasoning out our situation that way. Everyone that does that comes to the same conclusion. This shit is way weirder than we thought. And there is some sort of antagonistic, adversarial agency working against our progress. That's what everyone comes to the conclusion of. Christ did the same thing. He was preaching the good word and he's like, something's not fucking adding up. And so what did he do, right? He's like, oh, fuck, the empire is corrupt. Oh, shit, the Pharisees. This isn't a religion. This isn't worshiping God. This is worshiping the devil, right? So he saw that everything was inverted and counterfeit and backward, right? And then he started talking about that. He's like, we have bigger fucking problems than people just being decent. We actually have a force at work that is anti to human progression. And like, we need to figure out what the fuck's going on there. Like, that's what Christ was essentially saying without all the fucks. JFK did the same thing. JFK is like, probably had, I know he wasn't perfect. People say, well, JFK. Like everyone, there's this new trend of like taking all of our decent people from the past and only talking about the few human mistakes they made. All in all, JFK seemed to be very genuine about solving the problem of the clandestine sort of dark government that was cooking and brewing back then. And he said, it's like there's a dark force that is counter to human beings that is sowing the seeds of destruction for their own power and control over our world that we all agreed to live in and create. We're being subverted, right? It's the same thing Christ was saying back then. We're being subverted by an evil empire and a backward religion. And they all get killed. So that's the situation we're in. We are being subverted, whether that's by shitty people whether that's by an indoctrinated death cult, whether it's by uh, a sort of by a evolutionary cousin hominid that fits really well in with the rest of us, who's at war with us, or aliens or demons or whatever you want to call it. There is clearly an organized system with agency that is working counter to the progress of humanity. That I can say with almost certainty. The question just becomes, what is it exactly? I'm not sure. I think maybe it's somehow many of those things combined, operating all together. I think there's paranormal, supernatural, demonic forces at work. I think that there are people who are aligned with some kind of cabal with treacherous ideological beliefs that are very anti-human. And I think there's a certain biological, physical constitution to certain people, which make them more susceptible to being indoctrinated by this cult. I think it's kind of a mixture of all those things and maybe more. And then all the people who are weak of character are sucked into the whole thing and just make them more powerful because they're easy to get their strings pulled kind of thing. Yeah. So, you know, um, yeah, hope this wasn't a downer, but I mean, the ultimate message is to stick to your guns on righteousness and love, my friends. There, it is the answer. As corny as it sounds these days, man, love is the answer. But that love isn't a simplistic, love everything all the time. It's a love that is so powerful that you're willing to kill an intruder in your house to protect your child. It's motivated by love, but it doesn't feel like love, right? Yeah, I figured that would get a couple of you. Because I'm sitting here and on top of all these things, and we're getting deep, and I'm like, I often forget that like I'm immersed in this stuff, so I've gotten used to it, right? But then I forget that like it hits other people sometimes, like fucking 50 bricks. So and it doesn't make me feel hopeless. Like I've already like fully accepted the situation that we're in. I don't feel hopeless when I talk about this stuff. I just feel like I'm just stating what's important to state, and it's either obvious to me or I'm trying to help it to become more obvious to other people. And that it doesn't count us out. It just helps us to calibrate where we're actually at. And yeah, the moral of the story is be decent, be courageous, be loving, be merciful, kind, be just, and be ferocious in the face of evil, which will sometimes feel counterintuitive when you're like, the answer is love. The answer is love. The answer is love. But you must also meditate and pray and contemplate on love because it's not simple. There's a lot of people that'll sell you this bullshit. I mean, the new age toxic positivity people do the worst service to love, right? Oh, you love everyone. It's bullshit, man. There's no context. There's no explanation of nuance. Um, so like I say these things, but I also kind of like at the same time, like I can't just say the thing anymore because it's been so twisted up. You hear the things I'm saying, maybe you like what I'm saying, but spend time with it. Like really just meditate on the idea of love, the strengths of meditate on your idea of love. and how you express it. Are you expressing some love because you have attachment issues? And is your understanding of love being perverted by that, right? That's why, as much as I'll knock Christianity, I'm not going to knock the Bible, even though I think some of it's twisted up. I think there's a lot of wisdom in there, especially on things like love and how to love the right way. Same thing with justice and mercy, and appropriate times to give mercy, and the appropriate times to be merciless. So, yeah, I mean, I'm right back at you, sir. I forgot how to do that. There we go. Got it. Yeah. Mine's okay, but I don't got the right curve on the sides. I'll work on mine, okay? Um, yeah. So that's the moral of the story. Pursue righteousness. Even if it just means that you become a little more righteous. I don't think that we're supposed to save the world or that we can. I think that we're supposed to save the space around us and be saved by things greater than us. Doesn't mean that we're without agency or effect. Like, the things we do still matters, but they've done such a good job at literally blocking us from each other that it's very hard to collaborate and to come together in community. And I think it's going to get to a point where we're going to be very isolated. And in those moments, you can still connect with other people. You just connect through love, through being righteous, through all looking in the same direction as the divine light, as a concept, and maybe literally too. So that's what I say. Be decent. Check yourself. Check your ego. Spend more time talking to God, whatever that means for you. Because I think, like I said, the starting point might be different for everyone, but I think the destination is ultimately the same. And if you're pursuing it with a genuine open heart, I think everyone will get to the same place, which is where we find our power. So, love you guys. Feels like they're turning up the heat a little bit on me right now, so I think it's a good time to call it a night. Um, I'll try to do more of this more often, but it's getting to a point where you know your most important relationship is with God, not me. I sure hope that I've been able to inspire you guys to have a better relationship with God and Christ and the Holy Spirit more than anything. And please, people that are Christians here, I'm not a Christian either. I'm not a Christian. I say Christ in this deeper way. I say God in this deeper way, like the real essence of what that means, which has everything to do with being a decent person. Honesty, love, compassion, strength, courage, justice, these types of things. And like a reference for like being here and being given the gift of life and seeing everything around you as a gift, not a burden, right? Seeing a little piece of God shining through every blade of grass and every set of human eyes. So I think it's the only thing that matters anymore. All this other shit, it's either evil, right? Or it's being stomped out by the evil, but none of it lasts. None of it lasts. One day it'll all be burned in the inferno. Um, and all that will remain is who you are and who you chose to be. Right? The soul in the heart, expanding outward. There was a, I'll end on this note. There was a time that like I was every day dedicating my life to God, to uh, a healthy relationship with nature. And I got to this point where I knew for certain that there's no such thing as death. It's not real. And I felt the beauty of what this place really is. And it wasn't an assumption. It wasn't something I was creating in my own mind. I knew. I knew. And it was beautiful. This place is always beautiful, fundamentally. There's a lot of people and a lot of whatever forces at work that are trying to make it ugly. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. But I know fundamentally this place is beautiful. And I think it'll only be a matter of time because before we return to that resonance, because it needs to be, because it is the truth. It wants to be there. And so I just try to have patience. Patience that I think I'm probably going to need for decades. I don't think this is going away anytime soon, fortunately. But it doesn't mean you have to go away. It doesn't mean you have to forfeit anything about you. And it'll be your choice, gun to your head, whatever, digital ID, can't buy any groceries. It'll be your choice what you choose to forfeit. And I don't judge you at all. Like, I know how hard it's already been for all of us. I hope you have the courage and the strength and the resilience and the fortitude to not forfeit anything. Because maybe that's the stand that we take that turns the tides. Who knows? But, your integrity, your relationship with God, the love that you were able to put into other people's lives, the way you were able to fill up their hearts with something good. I still think all those things matter more than any of this other stuff. Regardless if it buys you a nice, regardless of the fact that it doesn't buy you anything nice, like a nice house or a car, and it doesn't make you very many friends. It feels like doing all the right stuff has only consequences right now. I understand that. I can't help myself, right? But to continue, I hope my motivations are fundamentally noble. And I hope all of us can get to the place where our motivations to be good are noble reasons and not, promoted by fear or desire for glory or gifts or whatever it is. I hope that at the end of the day, I can find a way to be decent, continue to be decent, continue to be good, for good reasons. And so even if it takes 100 years for us to get out of this rut, I still planted my flag in the right spot and hopefully maybe had a little bit of a positive impact on other people. That I was on the right side of history. However long that history takes to conclude. Yeah. So keep it real, keep it righteous. And as always, peace, love, respect, and God bless. See you on the ether side. That's a good one. Love you guys.